How fun it is to be alive. Zoom's launching. People are entering. Here we go. Declining my note takers. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for your patience as I get myself all set up. Someday I'll figure out how to do this faster and more effectively. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I can also hear myself, which is not good. This is less than ideal. Figure out how to do this faster and more effectively. All right, we're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and X, and all those things. And now, oh my goodness, I need my script. Here we go. All right, hello and welcome. Today is Wednesday, May 20th. My name is Costum. I go live every single day at 6 p.m. Eastern, and to the very best of my ability, I give you everything that I think matters in the entrepreneurial world across markets, platforms, policies, AI, news. And then I bring some of the smartest people on the planet, or at least the smartest people I have access to. And we just talk. We talk about what we need to do, what's actionable, what's the verb, y'all. And so far, it's been pretty extraordinary. So what happened today? It would appear as though my news feed is busted. Daily stream script. Hold for awkward silence. There we go. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong. From Google News, it looks like AI replaces lower value human capital, according to Stanchart. The CEO has publicly stated that AI is actively replacing roles he termed, quote, low value human capital. It will be exciting to see that man canceled for saying what everybody thinks but is not allowed to say. Entrepreneurs must now treat workforce planning as a cycle of continuous upskilling and automation to a competitive edge. Okay. AI disruption in financial services, Wall Street's $47 billion profit paradox and what it means for investors. An analysis reveals Wall Street profits climbed to $47 billion, largely driven by firms that successfully integrated AI into their core operations. New Zealand to cut 8,700 public sector jobs as AI replaces workers. This is the story. It's just all talking about Standard Chartered cut 7,000 jobs. Law.co broadens private legal AI deployment capabilities amid rising demand for customized legal automation. Here's the thing. Of all the horrible things that AI has done, the greatest is costing lawyers their jobs. I hope there's no lawyers on the council. Y'all can tell me who it is that I'm offending, because I just cannot wait for the day that I no longer need you. I'm sure you're beautiful people when you go home. I'm sure you're going to heaven and you have, the same soul everybody else has. But from a professional capacity, I despise everything that you represent and do. Just kidding, but not really. Google News reports tailwinds, disruption, legal strategy now belongs in the boardroom. Interesting. Indian workers are training robots and causing their own displacement. Shadow AI surges, and this exposes the MSP opportunity around governance and productivity. This is interesting. A surge in employees using unauthorized shadow AI tools is creating significant governance and security risks for businesses. This employee-led adoption signals that corporate AI policies lagging far behind workforce behavior. Entrepreneurs must immediately establish clear governance for AI tools or cede control of company data and workflows to their team's unvetted app choices. And I think this is interesting. From teen hacker to Iron Dome researcher. This founder raised $28 million to fight AI phishing. Okay. Some backup stories. Bluebeam Max launches globally. Oh, Elon Musk lost the lawsuit. I know we all know that. Boston Metal gets $75 million lifeline to produce critical metals. And then a lot of job displacement. I don't want to read about the job displacement. And yet it's happening. The download, Musk versus Altman, smart glasses for warfare. Elon Musk lost his lawsuit against OpenAI over its original nonprofit mission. This court decision signals that the direction of the foundational AI will be shaped by corporate power struggles, not just altruistic goals. And those are it for the stories. Let's ignite the council. Council, one, are any of you attorneys that I either forgot or don't know about? And I'm so sorry if I've offended you. Two, What happened today that I missed? I see Grant, Neil, Jason, Brandon, Jacob, Leanne, Scott, Steve, Deborah. Everybody's moving as you enable camera. There's Lee, Elliot, Josh, uh, Stacy, Isan, Dylan, and Quinn. And Leanne, this is your very first call, so you have to introduce yourself and tell everybody about you and why you're here.
Hi everyone, Leanne Scott here. My company is podguest.io. I have known Kasim for many, many years. And as we discovered on a call, I might be a bit of a fangirl and a stalker, but not really. I'm South African, but living in the UK. But most of my clients are out in the US because I'm not a morning person. And so the later start works for me. But that's me in a nutshell.
That is the ultimate Jedi trick to not being a morning person, is to moving to where you get to work when you want, but it's still daytime for everybody else.
It's
That's,
like living in the future.
yeah, yeah. Tell me what stocks to buy. I could use the tips. I love that a lot. Leanne is actually here for a hot seat. I promised her a hot seat. She and I spoke earlier today, and I was like, you should join my call because I have the council and we want to do hot seats. So she's got an extraordinary business with a lot of value to offer, and she's an extraordinary human, and we want to help her. So put a pin in the hot seat for a moment, Leanne. I'm going to ask you to explain who you are, what help you need. But first, I'd love to know. I see Elle Ferris just joined. I don't think this is your first call, but I think it's your first opportunity to introduce yourself because the last time you joined, you were on when there was a guest. So I'd love to know who you are, why you're here, and what your superpower is.
Hold on 1 second. Ah, wait. Shit. Hold on. There you go. Hey there.
Yay. These are the greatest of all introductions already.
Well, anyway, I've been following you. I started following you on LinkedIn. I'm Chief Marketing Officer for a company called Soundtrack.io. We provide music to over 100,000 businesses globally.
Oh my.
I've been a CMO in the music industry for about 20 years and started doing alternative investments recently, do a bunch of work around how women invest in alternative investments. And I love what you're doing.
I love that you're here. Thank you for saying that. That was so well done. I love soundtrack.io. I'm on the website now. And your name is
Lisa Ferris.
Lisa. Lisa, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you.
My pleasure.
Has anybody else not had the opportunity to introduce themselves to the council? I think we know everybody now. I love that. If you're watching this on the live stream, just please don't forget, you can always join us here in Zoom. Go to dailysigh.ai, join the Free Forever community. The Zoom link is in the calendar. We'd love to have you. We'll grow the council. The more voices, the better. Or if you want to stay a wallflower, that's fine. You can always subscribe and have these calls summarized and sent to your inbox, also at dailysigh.ai. Deborah, you had your hand up. I was not ignoring you, but I wanted to make sure that I got to all the introductions. Please, madam, forgive me.
That's okay. Thank you. So my question is actually a follow-up with the first principles thing because it's been this earworm that you inserted and it's been just bugging me a lot. So what I still went through the document again and I understood the principle and what the goal is. I still got lost in the workflow. But I was hoping that okay, let me see how I can quickly summarize this. I had a conversation with Claude, and eh, basically depends on the day and the time. Claude will give me a different look and a different angle on something, and so I asked it to run it through my tenets because I have 10 principles that my business and my life that govern them. And so when it did, it got really different results and it was like and for the future I'm going to save this
Mm.
and use this in the future to answer your questions basically. Is that kind of what we're doing with the several documents, the 11 steps or whatever in the first principles doc?
Yes, in a nutshell, I just dropped the document in the chat for anybody that doesn't have it. This is the best attempt I've been able to make at this idea, which is not very well articulated, but I do think has a lot of merit. The quick as quick as I can do. The quick version is AI output is the aggregate average of all information that exists, divorced of most hierarchy. And hierarchy in thought is important because that's how you make decisions. Is like, what's, who's saying this? And the first principles approach is a way of applying a lens to your AI tool so that the information it gives you and the decisions it makes have an applied hierarchy, and that applied hierarchy matches your values. I tried to simplify it, and any further simplification from what you have right now in the document that I've pasted, which by the way, I plan on publishing as a book, so please, please, please don't share it outside of the call. It starts to dilute the process. Yeah, Neil said the values determine perception. So trying to coordinate or discuss anything with AI without first establishing your values it's actually it's extraordinarily dangerous, I think. And it's more dangerous than we'll ever know or understand or realize, because it's a frog in the boiling pot of water, and that you start getting output that feels good enough, and you start using it and building upon it, and allowing for infrastructure that's built upon it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then you get so far down the rabbit hole before you realize, like, well, wait a minute, these aren't my values. And then I think things go awry. And so the experience that I had, and my experience is ultra basic, Deborah. It was I forgot the exact prompt, but it was basically like, help me create calls to action like Jason Fladlin. And all it would do was it just gave me like kind of a bad averaged example of Fladlin with maybe my voice applied. And then I said, okay, from a first principles perspective, what it is that I'm trying to accomplish. And we identified 3 calls to action. There was subscribe, comment, and share. And then I did a first principles analysis of what's actually happening when you ask somebody to subscribe. And that was built around reciprocity. And asking them to share was built around value identification in a small tribal environment. And then commenting was built around basically marking your territory. Commenting on a YouTube video from a neuroscientific perspective is the equivalent of a dog peeing on a tree. You're just marking your territory. People just want to be able to basically say, like, Costume was here. And when you know that, it helps you catalyze those things better and easier. And whether or not that's true is a whole other story. It was true for me. When I gave it my values and what I was trying to accomplish, it gave me a better lens. When I applied that lens, it gave me a much, much, much better output. And so I think it needs to be lens based. I still haven't really cracked the code on how to explain this.
I,
But
well,
I do think it's important.
I do want to help with that because
I love that. I would love that. Please and
and
thank you.
I don't say it from a like I genuinely, in the way that I work with AI, am finding this more and more each day. The more that I use it, I'm seeing the inconsistencies where some days it's like, yep, it's right on point, and then other days I'm like, let's pause for a second, rewind. Where did you get that from? And then I find and I correct where it is. So I don't, but I did want to say one thing about it, and I'll let everyone else speak. I do think it depends on your makeup. Some of us, most people do better in response to something than to initiating something. So it's not because we're lazy or procrastinating. It's actually like there are types, and so I think maybe um, what I did, I'll just share with you what I did is I already had my 10 principles. And then as I fed it to Claude or I feed it to ChatGPT, then it's kind of giving me its take. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I agree with that. Now proceed. But if it gave me something that I didn't agree with based on that like starting point, then I would say it. So I think there may be a way to simplify it for people like me who are not really good at initiating, like, these are all my things. But if you ask me, is this your thing? Is that your thing? I'll be like, no, 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 that's not my thing. Or yes, it is my thing. So there's something about that with how we work with chat that the process for me was backwards and I was really struggling with it. But I want to do it and I want to kind of, support. So in whatever way I could do so, because this whole thing about axiomatic and the other one that I forget now, That's like
Analogical and axiomatic. Yeah.
analogical. That's how, like, I'm doing that all day long, and I know very deeply the principles I'm working from, because I'm working from a very big ontological gap from most of the people around me. And it took me a long time to really get clear on what my ontology was and how it differed, so that I wouldn't just kind of like break down and freak out every time I tried to explain what I was thinking or believing to someone else. So that's something that I just wanted to share, what my experience was using those principles and tenets, and then how I thought maybe it might connect to that your document.
So this is really helpful for me, Deborah. Thank you. And you said something that was so beautifully explained, and it was a bit of an unlock for me about how most people, myself included, aren't starters. It's like in the Pavlovian experience of humanity, we're actually not the catalyst, right? We're the recipient of the catalyst, and then the response is what, drives us to action, and it's the response. So I think in a lot of ways, the expectation I have with this exercise is the person's going to be the catalyst. But if I can find the catalytic event, then I'll start the ball moving, and then it can go back and forth. And through that system of iteration, you start to figure out like values and principles, and you further craft. And I think a lot of this does happen naturally. People are crafting their AI tools
Mhm.
by saying exactly what you said. Wait a minute, I don't agree with that. But you know what scares me is it's the people that are doing that, thank God. It's the people that aren't. Because there are people that are like, oh, AI told me this, that must be true. And I'm like, oh no. So um I like the first principles discussion a lot. My buddy Nuno, who's coming to a call, by the way, I don't know if y'all know Nuno Tavares. He's one of the smartest people in the world. He had this really extraordinary conversation with somebody inside Anthropic at a very high level. And uh, when you find out, and I mean, this is 3 people removed now from the core conversation, but when you find out what they're planning, what we're discussing is actually really important. The values injection is really important. And Jason Zackel on this call, whose last name I will always mispronounce because it's how I lord my power over people. He built me this really beautiful perplexity driven app that actually does my first principles thing, but kind of automatically. And I was so grateful for that, Jason. And I didn't want it yet because I actually don't want to automate the process yet, because I feel like it's like Legos. Like if you could just buy a castle, it's not fun. And you also don't understand it. Like I actually want to build the castle right now, and each individual piece so that I understand it. But this was really, really helpful, Deborah. I appreciate you spending the time with that, and I appreciate you bringing that back around to me. Thank you. Here's what I'll do. Leanne, do me the favor of put your hand up so I keep your place in line, because we're going to go Stacy, then Dylan, and then we're going to do Leanne's hot seat. And if you can't find it, it's on the React button. If you click React, there's a little raise your hand piece. Yes. All right, Stacy, you're up. By the way, Stacy is a guest speaker Friday, and she's going to blow all of our minds. And if you're watching this, please make sure to show up Friday, because she's always had extraordinary contributions to the site, and I'm really excited to see what happens when we shine a spotlight on just her. Stacy's up, and then Dylan is on deck.
Thank you so much. I appreciate everything you just said, and I'm so looking forward to presenting on Friday. And it's very interesting, and you'll see why after Friday, that I'm presenting on Friday, and then you have an illustrious guest on Monday, and it's going to be real interesting to see some of the similarities and differences and some of the things that I'm going to talk about in alignment with what he talks about, and maybe
Wait,
not
who's our
so
guest
much
on
in
Monday? I'm
alignment.
so sorry, Stacy.
Jake Van Cleef.
Oh no, he's Tuesday.
Oh, okay. Then
Yeah, so
my fault.
we got the
You're not
man, the
having
myth,
a
the
guest on
legend.
Monday. Sorry, you're not having a guest on Monday because it's the holiday.
Correct.
Yeah, so on Tuesday. But we'll leave that. You'll understand more of that on Friday. I had raised my hand actually because I wanted to bring up a news topic. But because of what Deborah just brought to the table, I do want to respond to that, because interestingly enough, I have not read your the version of your book that you've shared with us, because I just saw it when you dropped it. But it's interesting because I also have a framework that very much is in alignment with what you shared. It's called Maximized Intelligence. And basically, which is likely to be the title of my book that will come out soon enough. And basically, I have a saying that I often say, you have to have your BI before your AI. And I can certainly explain what I mean by that. But I also often say, or always say, that AI has to have a system to serve. And so that
Mm,
goes back to what you're saying as well, that your foundation, and that's what I mean by BI meaning business intelligence, but it really isn't just business intelligence. It's everything. I believe in my tagline is be aligned, be productive, and be maximized. And what that means is everything you do has to start at a core, first principles, as you say, in alignment with who you are, what you believe, what you want, what's true at this moment. So that would be your business intelligence, right? You have to have all of that in place. That plus strategy, plus systems is
mm.
what equals what I call maximize. Oh, I'm sorry. And plus artificial intelligence, AI, is what I call maximize intelligence. So it's very much in alignment with that. So I love to hear that there are other people thinking the way that I do and seeing some of the things. And I would use that word that Deborah used, but I don't know that word in the context that she used it. Is it ontology? What was it? The ontology? Okay, so I'm going to look into that to see, because that's what I think is true too. That there are ways that some of us think that are very different than others. Doesn't make us better, just different. And so I want to look into that. What I wanted to share today, the reason I raised my hand is I really need to know how many people on the council are aware of what happened with Google. I was laughing when you said Google News told us this. Well, did Google News tell you that they did a horrendous thing? And I want to know if you guys are aware of it. Does everyone know what horrendous thing they did yesterday? Did anybody else who uses anti-gravity go to it and click restart to update and then get your world blown in a terrible way? So they did this horrible thing. They separated they created this anti-gravity 2, which is basically a copy of Claude. It's a desktop app that looks like a chat app and works like Claude and like some of how Codex works. And they separated the IDE, which was really anti-gravity, and it's just horrendous. And I even tried to use the IDE, the new one, along with my Claude code extension. It doesn't work. And I'm curious, is there anybody else in here? Just can I see physical hands? Anyone else use anti-gravity? It's just horrendous what they did. And not only is it terrible that they did it, but they didn't tell anyone. If I click restart to update, I'm thinking I'm going to get a little update to the tool that I'm using. Not that I'm going to have a whole new tool that does not work the way I expect it to work. Basically, they took the developer aspect out of what everyone has been using, and a lot of people are upset about it. So I'll leave it there. Just something I wanted to make note of, because we talk about AI. I think this is an important development, and shame on Google. And I saw a lot of comments on Reddit, and basically people are so confused as to whether there are humans still working there or only AI is running what they're doing, because this was a terrible drop for us
I had
as
no idea that that happened.
users. Yeah, it's horrible.
I have a little
Stacy,
bit of insight into that.
we'll turn it over to Dylan first. I just want to be obnoxious and say, if everybody delivered bad news the way that Stacy just did, the world would be such a better place. Because as she's saying, this is like she's so kind and it's still so empathic sounding. She's like the exact opposite of Alex Jones. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just it was so funny the way that you did that. I loved it a lot. Thank you for that. Dylan, you're
Well,
up.
at least I
Oh,
know why you were laughing when I was talking now, Kasim. I was like, why is he
no,
laughing?
I
And
wasn't
now I
trying. I
get it.
promise I wasn't
I
laughing at
get
you.
it.
It was just, it was such a, it was, you're like, this is horrible. And I'm so, but you were doing it in just like this really beautiful, like kind way. And I'm just not used to that. You know, it's like
I
normally
am
like
an empath.
vein popping out
Yeah.
and, yeah, aneurysms before I really understand how bad things are.
It takes a lot to get me really angry,
Yeah.
but when I am, you will know. So, but thank you for the observation. You got me pegged. I'm an
Oh, I loved
empath.
it a lot. Yeah, it was great. I wasn't laughing at you, I promise. I was admiring your composure. Dylan, you're up.
Yeah, somebody needs to forward that to Google. They got the I'm just disappointed. That I think that would really affect change there. Uh Basically, they spent $3 billion on an IDE called Windsurf, and that's
Hmm.
that's it. They they replaced the anti-gravity team with the windsurf team. And they bought it a while ago. It's not a new thing. But that's the inside information. The hater developer that I watch that just hates it on everything other than OpenAI, he said he was in close contact with people at specifically the Gemini CLI, which was related to anti-gravity, and that it was three of them, and they were like super cool and very open to feedback, and like we want to know everything that's wrong so we can fix it. And those three people are gone now, and entirely replaced with the windsurf
Wow.
team and windsurf leadership. And I mentioned in the chat that Gemini CLI was open source. And Chinese labs were actually using it as a foundation for their CLI. They are getting rid of it. It's not just like like normally if they move on from an open source project, it's an open source project. It just stays in nature and somebody can take it and pick it up and continue with it. They're getting rid of it and replacing it with closed source anti-gravity CLI. And also apparently their new model they released is costs 3 times as much and uses like 2 or 3 times more tokens. So it climbed to like on this particular benchmark, it climbed to like the fourth most expensive model to use, but it's a flash model, and flash models are supposed to be fast and cheap. Like they're for like you don't need the deep thinking, you just need quick responses. Uh, so yeah, and I've been meaning to say say this because it's I know you're all like think Google is going to win in the long term, and I'm not saying they're not, but I
Yeah.
wanted to offer this additional insight that they're way behind in hardware, which you would not expect. You would think like they have a ton of servers, they have all this infrastructure, but it's not meant for these workloads. And in fact, I heard that their TPU, like they have their own type of hardware. They don't use NVIDIA, and they're called TPUs, tensor processing units. And I have heard that they're using CPUs to run inference because that's like what they have available. They don't have the fully compute, but they don't have the demand. Like you hear about it from Anthropic because their demand like 100x in a month in January.
Mm.
But Google just doesn't have demand to expose and they were one of the first companies to start taking away usage limits. On anti-gravity, the free plan used to be really good. And then they like not killed, but like made it nearly unusable. Free plan and $20 a month. It was you kind of had to go for 200 a month, and I think they just introduced 100 a month to have like a medium thing. So yeah, interesting things going on at Google. Yeah, Flash 3.5 is um what it was called.
The CPU, TPU, TMU thing that you just said, which I got all the acronyms wrong, but I had heard that. It was like they're bubblegum and duct tape in so many ways. I might have
Probably for
actually
me.
heard that from you. Yeah, I'm forgetting the source. That is really interesting. I still the hardware thing, isn't that just one acquisition away? Like, aren't they just one acquisition away from that not being a problem?
If that acquisition is NVIDIA.
That's so funny. Or Intel.
D-
And
no,
No, it's not Intel.
what's Intel going to do for
yeah.
them?
Well, I thought they have
Intel,
the dark horse. Like everybody's like, oh, they're going to be able to make it up with,
who's
you
saying
know,
that?
Intel.
Sounds
I own a
sounds
bunch
about
of
right.
Intel stock, and I get the stock updates, and they're like, "We're getting there, guys. Don't worry."
They have like they're introducing very uh they're going after the consumer graphics card
Yeah.
market, I think. I don't think that they're really that they're putting out affordable GPUs. Which is cool that they're putting out GPUs at all. AMD is kind of the only competitor to NVIDIA in the AI market, and they're not competing. I think they're even going at, like, you may have seen a headline recently that AMD put out a card that had like 5 times as much processing power as an NVIDIA card. It was on a very specific type of problem, which is more like the traditional supercomputer problem, not AI inference or um and if anybody's wondering, a GPU is like a whole bunch of dumb cores, like 10,000 dumb cores. And a CPU is like 4, 8, 12, 16 smart cores that can do like a larger amount of tasks. So GPUs are just for very specific types of problems, and those problems happen to be the problems that AI is built on. One of those is matrix multiplication. Um, uh,
Hmm.
so, yeah, I guess I don't know. I want to go into that, but I'm not going to go into that.
Someday you should. We should have Dylan on as a guest. A fun story about Dylan. Y'all don't see it because I don't. It's on the live, but I stream with all the channels that we're in, and everything that people say feeds into one chat. And for the most part, it's been very positive. If you're watching live, by the way, come join us in the Zoom room, dailysigh.ai. Ryan Poteet, I see you. It's the top advertising in the attorney in the world, by the way. And I just bashed attorneys today, so he happened to join right then. But Ryan, come to my Zoom room. I love you, buddy. So I'm watching the chat one day. I don't remember what day it was, and somebody's saying just the meanest things about me, just like very unkind and just being a troll. And it's fine. Like it's just life. It's what happens when you go live. And I'm just thinking like, oh, this person's just a mean person who doesn't have a bad day. But then Dylan started to talk, and then this guy goes, "Wow, that guy Dylan's really smart." And it made me so mad because that's when I had to acknowledge. I was like, "Oh, he just doesn't like me. Like he's not having a bad day." Dylan turned him all the way around, and so I've always resented you a little, Dylan. Just kidding. Love you, buddy. Buddy, are you new here? Is this your first time on the side? This isn't. Have you introduced yourself
Maybe
yet?
maybe like 4 times. I'm mostly a lurker. Sometimes on YouTube I'm like, oh, jump over.
I'm glad you're here, man. Can you tell us about you?
Yeah, I have a Google business and AI search company. I met you in September in San Diego when you were doing your little thing about AEO, and I said it should be AI searches because that's my domain name.
That's so
So,
funny. Yeah. Oh, you were
yeah.
growth hacking then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're here, man. Thanks for coming. I appreciate you a lot.
Yeah, I love your stuff. I actually, my last hire I got after I read your book, and
Yes.
he's been aces. So
I love that a
appreciate you.
lot. Yeah, appreciate you. And Robert, I think is this your first time here? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but if you want to introduce yourself, we'd love to know who you are. I'm gonna assume Robert's AI. All right, we're gonna go hot seats. By the way, y'all, I want to do so
I'm
many more of these. Oh, go
I'm
ahead.
so sorry, Leanne. That wasn't actually what I wanted to say. That was just my response to Stacy.
What happened?
I was talking.
Oh, are you still go
Yeah, I had something to say, and then I
go?
just
Say.
added this.
Sorry,
Oh,
I
yeah, okay.
interrupted you.
So very politely wanted to offer that in Qasim's document, it has you run an experiment to determine if the result of the document gives you a better result or not. It is a loaded experiment. There's almost no way for Qasim's thing to lose
Yeah, no,
because
Dylan's wrong. This is very scientific, and Dylan's lying. There's no way.
uh, the actual experiment is context versus no context because the control group in the experiment, like what you're comparing it to, is not giving it any context. And the experiment is giving it the context generated with Qasim's thing. So like a more accurate experiment would be with context versus with the first principles context. Um, and also that this document was written before Qasim knew about context windows. And so like at some point during the conversation, the output was probably not as good as it was when he started. So
Dylan, I'm going to
yes.
argue with you.
Okay.
So I don't think it's a loaded experiment because in the way that people actually use AI, most of it is without context.
Uh, who?
Just people plugging stuff into ChatGPT.
Are they in this room with us?
No, they're not in this room.
Oh,
I'm
well, the
talking about
people in this
average
room are the
user.
ones using this document.
Okay.
I feel like Dylan's like debunking a psychic. Are they in the room with us now? That's so funny. I had a funny response to Dylan. I was gonna pull the what's the greatest Big Lebowski? What's the guy's name? It's like, yeah, that's just like your opinion, man. Um, and I think you have something there, Dylan. It would almost be like first principles, like axiomatic context versus analogical context, and then see. It would be help me create a CTA like Jason Fladlin versus a first principles documentation.
I think it just needs revisited.
Yeah.
Is all that you've like you did that kind of a while ago.
Oh
Was
yeah,
it
it's
like 4 or
old.
6 weeks?
Yeah.
Like I think that if you approached it again from scratch, knowing what you know now,
It would
that
change for sure.
yeah, that you would and also I think that it could use a different name. Because whenever it took me like I really didn't get the whole first principles thing, and when I started looking into it, I looked at Farnham Street, which does a lot of mental model stuff, and the examples that made sense to me were from Elon, who is a first principles person, and it
Mhm.
was uh I don't know if it was car batteries specifically or just large batteries were like X amount of dollars per megawatt, like $600 per megawatt. And so he took the material costs to build the battery and it came out to like $4 a megawatt. And so he said, okay, so like whenever you like break the thing down into its constituent parts, there is a very wide gap between that cost and what it actually costs. And so if you can just reduce whatever that is, bureaucracy, then
Mm.
you can. And the same thing with a rocket. Like break the rocket down into its constituent parts, like the actual materials that are used to make it. The cost is very different from what it costs to get something into space. And so there's an opportunity there, which is another flavor of first principles, I guess.
Mhm.
So like I think yours thing is like the first principles of yourself, like breaking you down into your constituent parts, but not like cells and things, like your
It's like the thinking.
outlook.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. What is the thing you said? Pharmistry?
Grant put it in the chat.
Oh, the fs.blog. I've been on that site before. It is
There there
Farnham.
that was like when things started to make sense to me, was when I read that read that blog.
That's really helpful, man. You've given me a gift today. I really appreciate that a lot. Thank you. I really mean that. This is something that's honestly just kind of important to me. And so I'm going to revisit, like you said, and then maybe run it past y'all again and ask for a little bit more time. I'm going to segue because I don't know how to do it naturally, so I'm just going to announce it. And Leanne Scott is here for a hot seat. I'll say if anybody's watching this live or in the Zoom room, I'd love to do lots of hot seats. I'd love if we had one a day. We could have a guest today and a hot seat today. I think that'd be great. I think hot seats are a great way for everybody to get value. The person receiving it obviously receives value, but so too does everybody who watches, because it allows us to focus our attention on a specific problem, but the solutions to that problem tend to cascade. My experience with hot seats is the loudest person should not be talking. There's always the person with the answer. It generally tends to be very quiet. And one of the ways to attend to that is when we hear the problem, the question I'm going to ask is, does anybody have direct experience with this? And if you do, we'd love to hear your response. And then if you don't, it's, well, does anybody have tangential experience to this? And then it's, does anybody have an idea? But just because you have an idea doesn't mean it's a valid idea. So let's love on Leanne, give her as much attention and grace as we possibly can. And we've got about 20 minutes, which is a great time block for a hot seat. So Leanne, the floor is yours. We'd love to know what we can do for you, explain your business and the problem you're having, and we'll attend to it.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much again for having me. Right, so just a kind of quick personal background. So I've been in marketing since before you could drag and drop things, before you could build on WordPress. So I've kind of been through the whole process of building websites, being a copywriter, content marketing, niche down into podcast production, and then we built Podguest as a platform. But over the last 6 months, I have been fighting a cancer diagnosis. So for the last 4 months, I've been under chemotherapy. And let me tell you, that messes with your brain. Your brain is much, much slower, and it's been the most frustrating part, other than obviously the normal things that you expect. But my brain has felt much slower. What it has made me do is stop and think about how I build this business that's not just me doing all the things. And I liken running a team to herding cats, because I can't seem to get them all to cooperate in a unified formation. So in terms of what we built, so Podguest is about how do you match podcast guest wannabes with podcast hosts. Now, there are some platforms out there, but we looked at it from a different point of view. And my theory is that there are good podcasts to be on, but that doesn't mean you have to be on the Joe Rogan show. So what we do is we built an intelligence layer, and so we smart match podcast guests, and we match them across 42 different data points. So we match topics and industry and audience and chemistry with the hosts. And once we've got those matches, we then do the personalized outreach. So we use a lot of AI for that. And we get amazing feedback from hosts on the podcast pitches. We then prep the guest for their interviews, so they know exactly what to expect. The host knows what to expect and what's going to resonate with our clients. And where we go that next step further is, once the interview is done and the episode is released, we track those episodes, and we then prepare an AEO asset pack so that we start to build that semantic layer for each guest. We have then taken it a step further, and we start to track semantic growth. So we actually have a dashboard. So the number one objection we get is, well, I've tried podcast guesting, but it doesn't work. We can actually show that it works, and they can start to see the growth. Where am I stuck? Up until now, it's been dependent on brute force. So all sales calls are dependent on me. And as you can imagine, over the last 4 months going through chemo, as my energy dropped, the sales dropped as well. So I'm a bit stuck. Does a product like this have to be dependent on a sales call, or can it be led by education and content and be a self-serve so that people sign up? Now, at $100, $200 mark, absolutely. At a $997 product, can it still be a self-serve? And my big goal is to serve 1,000 podcast guests. How do we get there? Like, what are out the box thinking? Because I'm a bit stuck in we're used to booking sales calls, sign them up that way, but that's very slow. That's kind of, in a nutshell, does that give you enough information and context?
So I think first, Council, do we have any clarifying questions before we dive into ideas? Stacy?
Yeah, actually, I was
Neil?
just going to try to type in the chat, but what I think, because there was a lot of information shared, is just at the end, I think I heard the specific questions, and I think we should just clarify those so that we're all on the same page. I know she asked about some kind of a self-service offer, and then that she wants to serve. I thought I heard 1,000, but I don't remember what 1,000 what. So if it would be helpful, Leanne, if you can just bullet point 3 things that particularly are the things that you are challenged with or that you want to accomplish that we can try to help you with.
Okay. So for me, the 1,000 is 1,000 podcast guests. So that's 1,000 clients, which means that it cannot be dependent on me. So that's the big constraint. And then do we think that at this price point of $997 a month per guest profile, can it be a self-serve sign up, or does it still need a sales call? In which case, do we need to build a sales team?
$997 a month. Can we, which veers high ticket, but I don't think is technically high ticket just yet. Can we automate that process is the question, and how do we get to 1,000 clients? Neil, you have your hand up.
Yeah, main clarifying question is, how much control do you have over this whole thing? Is this your baby, or are you one of a team at the executive layer?
No, it's my baby. I have a tech partners, but it's my concept. I have full autonomy.
Does anybody have any direct experience with something like this or close to this?
On Podmatch, which is the low end version of this, which I think would be like the default competitor in the mind space of the client.
Mm-hmm.
So,
what's your experience with Podmatch, Leanne? Because I've used it too. I had great success for the first 90 days, and then it all petered out.
Yeah, I think it's the basic differential from what I can tell on the Podcast IO website is it's, done for you management versus DIY, and nobody does DIY, which is kind of a problem. So, that would be my guess.
Leanne, did you want to respond to that, or?
I was just going to say the big difference with Podmatch is that both hosts and guests have to be on the platform to find each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so you tend to have lower level kind of podcasts and guests sometimes. And then, like you say, it's DIY. So when you've got 150 messages in your inbox and to-dos, you kind of give up, and a lot of people get overwhelmed. So I mean, like it's a full-time job matching, and people underestimate how much work goes into getting a consistent number of bookings through, and that's really what turns the needle. Is the more consistent and more regularly you show up, the better your growth, and actually that's how you engineer authority.
I have my hand up because I have ideas too, but Jason's hand up was up first. So Jason, you go.
Yeah, site looks fantastic, first off.
It really does look great.
Yeah, I mean, it's super strong, in my opinion, from being both sides of the mic, hosting and guesting and all that stuff. Yeah, I think you're in a spot that you absolutely could automate this, like you're hoping to do. I think just with plenty of education along the way, as long as they feel touched, they feel, like even if it's asynchronous, I can get help the second I want to, and it's super clear. Um, I love the promise on the site. I guess I would feel so. Give me the dollar, give me the real tangible from like folks I've seen training people on podcast guesting as a way to grow your business and all that. They do a good job on the tangible side of it. This equals this dollars because of what you're going to get out of it. And so I definitely think it's possible on this for me, and I'm probably a moron, but like I don't know what semantic it doesn't mean anything to me, and I see this all over the site as the promise. And so I mean, that would again just more tangible and understanding the promise along the way. Um, so my 2 cents.
Any response to that, Leanne?
Not knowing semantic growth, thank you. That's really helpful because we get stuck in knowing what it is, and not being able to share, or people not understanding it. So it's that kind of jargon element. So I do think the education piece is what's missing. and doing more of that so that people understand. So I've tried really hard to, and we put an ROI calculator on the website, but that's really difficult to actually quantify. But what we have done is we have built a dashboard which you get when you sign up, and we probably need to showcase it a bit better, which actually tracks. So semantic growth is, how is your authority showing up? How many mentions do you get? Is there an improvement by doing this? And that was our tangible way of showing that the more podcasts you appear on, the more pitches that go out, the more you become a recognizable name. And so we're tracking that growth to actually show a tangible number of this is working, rather than a hope and a pray strategy.
I have a comment that might not be productive because it could be just too much of a departure. So I'd like you to reel me in if what I start to say, you're like, dude, stop. This is too far, too much. The issue I take with your offer is you do way more than I feel like is being articulated on the front end, or at least articulated clearly. Like, you have a badass offer, and it checks a ton of boxes, and I mean that literally. One of the best offer pages I've ever seen in my entire life, and I think everybody, when you see it, you'll know exactly what I mean. It's high levels page. When you're on high levels page, and it's funny, I don't know why this isn't at the very top. It's this. It's, hey, business owner, here's, and honestly, I don't even like this one. Do y'all remember the old one, the one that was on their site for 5 years? It's, here's everything that you pay for. And by the way, we do all of that. And Leanne, you have something as robust as high level. And I wouldn't, I don't think you need to change the name. And I'm prefacing with that because it doesn't even have to do with podcasts. Like Perry Belcher had this idea when he and I were kicking back and forth some things that we were going to build, and his idea was, we've had this conversation internally where nobody wants a drill, they want a hole. Nobody wants to be on a podcast, they want to be famous. So you have this fame as a service offer where it's, I'm going to put you on high value shows in front of curated audiences. B, I'm going to do it in a way that breaks down your content on a granular level and helps you increase your visibility from an AI perspective. C, I'm going to put you in a position of having a massive amount of content, which everybody wants and needs. There's just like this, it's like, hey, do you need all 5 of these things that I do? Like, is this important to you? And I don't feel like that's being shoved down my throat the way that I would shove it down somebody's throat if I were offering it. Like, yours is it's so subtle, and it focuses more on, the thing that costs me time, which when I think about podcast guesting, I actually get a little anxious because I've done it and I'm just like, oh, I know it works. I know how valuable it is. And you know what? That costs me a lot of time. And what I need from you is a little bit more like, no, 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 no. You don't understand. This doesn't cost you time. This saves you time. Because you don't just need to be a podcast guest. You also need to create content, do a podcast yourself, have your own YouTube channel, repurpose content, atomize that content, do AEO and SEO, and convince all of your clients that you're the best result. And the only way to do that is like you solve 1,000 problems with one foul swoop. And I think that articulated, what that does is, as a podcast guest platform, $1,000 is high ticket because I can go to Podmatch and get it for 67. You're not a podcast guest platform. You're fame as a service or something like that. So I think that articulated puts me in a position where I'm like, shit, $1,000? Yes. So the question, can this be automated? Anything can be automated, right? Like I know a friend who has a high-end mastermind. It's $100,000 a year, and he's automated the whole damn thing. It has way more to do with the perception of value. I only need to talk to somebody if I'm spending more money on something that I think it might be worth, and I want that clarity. So I think the can it be automated is a leverage question that has to do with your messaging. And if you can be like, because any of us that buys anything online without talking to a human, you do that because you've been convinced it's worth what you're paying. So that's the only question. You could do it regardless of the pricing. I just think that we need to adjust the teeter-totter of value here a little bit. How does that land?
Yes, I suppose that's always been the question for me is it clear enough, and is it explicit enough? Because I think I have a tendency to be too conceptual. And I wonder if that's what my barrier to conversion is.
if I spend the time on your site, my expectation is that I would figure out over time everything that you're doing. I think a huge needle mover for you could and would be, what's that one image that, the one image, the one graphic, the one animation, the one visual, the one, like what High Level has. And it's funny because I don't like their new one. I like their old one. Their new one's prettier. Their old one made instant sense. You look at that and you're like, oh yeah, obviously I want that. So like, what's that one thing? And it's a visual articulation of leverage. So it's, 1 hour of your time goes into my machine, and with 1 hour, which is one podcast interview, you're going to get this and 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 this. And then I'm actually going to do that multiple times because I don't just get you on one, I'm going to get you on a lot of them. So I don't know. I think that visual articulation would be really profoundly impactful.
Okay, that makes a hell of a lot of sense. Can I just also add, Dylan asked the question. It's not that I want to do, I don't want to be involved in fulfillment. I want to be less involved in sales. I'm very much a visionary and innovator, and I get drawn into the weeds too much. And people expect, when I'm a people pleaser, and so when people meet me, I just want to do everything to make it work for them, and then I overpromise, and then they expect to call me at 2 o'clock in the morning and have me answer. That's the biggest reason to pull me out of it, but also scalability. Kasim, I think that is the thing that's missing, and I didn't quite know like which elements, because I think the AO angle is really strong in that nobody else is able to offer that as part of a podcast guesting service. And I don't want to be seen as a booking agency. So they see Podmatch at $67 and they see a booking agency. And I think I sit in the middle, and I haven't quite articulated how I sit in the middle.
I think it's such a great point. There needs to be a gravity pull away from what you're not. And then somebody else said, who said it? I like what Lee said, tie it back to what it will mean for the end user. Because nobody wants AEO either. They don't even know what it is. I like the reason, and was it Grant that just found out that Fame as a Service? Yeah, fameasaservice.co is available. That's a great name, by the way. It'd be interesting because he'd be like, hey, I make you famous to your customer. I make you famous to AI. I make you famous to search engines. And fame might not be the right word. I don't like visibility because it feels like it goes in, it's corporate speak. It's a buzzword. Like, what is it that they really want? And I turn the light on for you, but I turn the light on for AI and for search and for your customer and for your strategic partners and for your vendors. Like, everybody knows you more. And I don't know what it is, but that's worth noodling on, is, like, what's um, Socrates said that prowess over metaphor is something like, I'm going to butcher this. Prowess over metaphor is the surest sign of genius. And it's because, going back to analogical thinking, it's how we all think. It's this is like that. Oh, so what's this is like that for what you're doing? And now $1,000 is a no-brainer. And then the traffic problem, you and I already discussed this, but I'll say it for everybody else's benefit. I think if you ran a workshop where you showed people exactly what you do, because what you do is extraordinary, all that happens at the end of the workshop is, Leanne, can you do this for me? Like, I'd much rather you do it than me pay $1,000 a month to do it.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Neil has a great comment in here too. One thing Hormozzi's right about is the value formula. Dream result times success probability perception divided by perceived effort times time delay. Oh, Buddy found the old high-level image. What a badass you are, Buddy. This is great. How did you do that? Did you use archive or something? Yes, this is the one. I'm going to share my screen.
Old affiliates still have it on their sites.
Oh, do they? That's so funny. Well, because they're smart affiliates, to be honest with you. Look at this. I know this is the thing. There's nothing sexy about this, but it's so smart. It's like, here's everything you need. Here's all the other tools and what they cost you. Here's what you're paying. Here's what you could be paying. And Leanne, you're doing that. You're just like, hey, I know you're doing PR. I know you're doing content creation. I know you're doing social. I know you're doing outreach. I know you're doing, repurposing. I know you're doing SEO and EO, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Or you could just do this thing that I'm offering you. Jacob, you have your hand up?
Yeah, Leanne, I just want to say, first of all, you're a trooper right now for going through everything you're going and doing this. My one suggestion is you are targeting American traffic, right? Like you said that earlier. Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so just visually right off the bat, I will say when I see this much pink, I think like breast cancer awareness and stuff like that. Just so you know, like visually, that's what I'm seeing.
Okay.
I do really like the gold accent to it. It stands out because a lot of times you don't put pink and gold together. But that's just one thing to kind of think about going for. I don't want to get you like stuck in the weeds of this, but just visually when I first see it, that's like what's jumping to mind.
Okay. Helpful. Thank you.
Sorry, I was sneezing. Leanne, I think you have an extraordinary offer here. I really do. And I think it just takes a little bit of massaging to that's the paradox of too much value is it's just, Sean Clark talks about this going back to high level. He's like, stop selling high level. It's too much. So miss call follow
Yeah.
back. And then people will pay for that, as much as they pay for the whole high level. How is this for you?
Okay.
Does this feel helpful and productive?
Yeah, very much so. Because I think I've changed the site probably 4 or 5 times. And so it's helpful to get perspective in what's coming through and what's not, because the sales it should be a lot easier than what it is, and it feels really difficult at the moment. So it's been very helpful.
Awesome. If there's something we can do better, let me know because this is one of I don't think we've done more than 3 or 4 hot seats. And I'd like to get very good at them, maybe even with the format. What I'd encourage you to do is we have a WhatsApp community that's reserved exclusively for the people that join the Sigh via Zoom. And it's amazing. Like the conversations in there are awesome. And a lot of things come up after the fact. So join the WhatsApp community if you'd like. And what I would ask the
Thank
council
you.
to do is noodle on it. And if you think of other things for Leanne or just have referrals for her, let's send them over and support her. Neil, you're up. Katie, you're on deck.
Yeah, I mean, my main piece of feedback is I'm looking at the site. I don't understand the dream outcome exactly. So if you could make that clearer, um, so I mean, and a little bit that's what Kasim was saying, but it's just like at the end of this thing, we've got a 90-day sprint offer. At the end of 90 days, how is my life different?
Yeah, Josh said I like what to piggyback on Neil. I'd use your main title to say what you do rather than what you don't do. So right now it's we're not it's basically like saying, well, it's not SEO. And it's like, well, wait, what is it then? And so to Neil's point, I like the dream outcome. Hey, this is you after me. Um, I think that's great. Katie?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate kind of what everyone's saying. It's a really great offer. And so I think obviously re-articulating the value is going to be awesome. And let's say I know someone who has no online presence, but has a huge network and has been on TV shows and is about to start trying to leverage that to build his business online. Would that be the right person? Because I can't really tell from the website if that's the right person. Like, do you have to already have an online presence yet? Who would be the right person? And then it's absolute no brainer. Like I'm about to sign him up.
Okay, amazing. Yeah. So that is it's the philosophy is that authority is engineered. It doesn't happen by accident. So it's someone
Okay.
who knows what they're talking about. How do we build that authority in for you? And that's being seen in the right places as often and regularly as possible.
Okay.
Dude, that was badass. Authority is engineered.
Yeah. So if you lead with something like that,
That's great.
like maybe you could play to the people who have authority, and everyone actually wants to have authority and feels like to have authority even if they don't. So if we play to that, like let's get your authority visible. And also right now, every human is like, who do I trust? Humans are looking for trust. and they're looking for authority, and the machines are looking for trust and authority. That's who they're servicing, especially videos. And every podcast you can turn into a video. So if humans and machines all need authority and trust, if you can leverage that statement you just made, I think that's a big win.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, that was beautiful, Katie. Thank you so much. Also, where are you?
I'm in Roseville currently.
What's behind this? So, like, where are you on a farm? What is behind you?
I'm just in a little park.
Oh, that's lovely. I'm from
Last week
Arizona,
I
so I
was-
see green, and I'm like, are you in Eden?
Yeah. Last week I was in the Sierra Nevada mountains,
Oh
but
man,
now
you're
I'm in the
good.
valley.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Stacy, you're up.
Yeah, so you know what, Leanne? I think that your pricing is not being positioned properly. So let me just say this, if I understand it, it's $9.97 a month for 3 months, because you said 90 days, right? And I get it, maybe something goes a little over that, but I don't think that's the right positioning at all. For someone who's going to spend that amount of money, this is high end, high tier. $9.97 a month. When I heard that, I'm thinking every month, and that doesn't sound appealing. I think you should be offering a $5,000, 5K package that happens to play out over 3 months. Because for someone who wants the results you're offering and gets it and sees it at that level, I think that's the right positioning, even if it's you pay half up front and then you pay. I think it's going to do more for you from an economical standpoint. And I think it's going to position the product, it's going to frame it in a way, or the service, that the right people will see the value. Does anyone else agree with that? I don't see any heads nodding, so I'm just curious. Do you guys get what I'm saying here? I think $9.97 a month is not the right move for 3 months. It's not that. You want a 5K offer that maybe you can discount a little bit, but a 5K package or a potentially higher package for more with, as everyone else has said, the outcomes clearly defined. That's my thought.
I think it's the perfect pricing until after I sign up.
So to what Katie just said, I think what Leanne's giving for what she's asking, it pales in comparison. What I absolutely agree with Stacy 90 days from now. Here's what I like. I like cheap. I ran an in-person event for what it cost me because I wanted to figure out what messaging worked, what was resonant, who wanted to be, you know what I mean? So I like just go at what covers your costs or at least makes you money, makes you a little happy while you're figuring out who, what, when, or how. The best thing you could have is people like Stacy saying, hey, this is worth way, 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 way more. Because then once you crack the code on the traffic channel and the acquisition structure, now you can be like, how about now? How about now? How about now? How about now? And then life will slap you on the wrist and be like, nope, not there. And then you'll know exactly where to peter it out. So Stacy, I 100% agree. This could be high ticket. It could be lump sum. It could be upfront. It could be year-long contract. And while you're testing, great price point. And then, you can play with it after the fact. But I'd play with that. That's phase 2. I'd crack the messaging first.
But
And,
show the other
Okay.
pricing then. Show it somewhere. You could be showing another option so that they can see that this offer, as everyone is saying,
Yeah.
actually is a good current offer. But list a higher package too, because some people will go for that. Yes, someone put in their anchor frame. Absolutely. So just a thought.
So that's exactly right. What you need to do is what high level did and anchor it against, hey, just so you know, this is what direct outreach costs, this is what PR costs, this is what SEO costs, this is what AEO costs, this is what content creation, and on and on and on and on and on. Or bam. Dylan, you're up, and then I've got to hop. I got little boys to get from school.
Do you mind if I talk about your website and not your specific question?
Yeah, go for it.
Momentarily.
Actually, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to segue out. Is that okay? Forgive me. I got the 2 best little boys in the whole wide world, and we've got to take them out. So real quick, if you're watching this, thank you so much for joining. You can always join the private Zoom room. Go to dailysigh.ai. Leanne, thank you so much for being vulnerable and being a hot seat. I really, really appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
You're amazing. Please don't forget
Thanks
to
for
join our
having
private
me.
WhatsApp community if you're here in the Zoom. I go live every single day at 6 p.m. Eastern. High fives, and I'll see you all.